You may
All
start.
right. So good evening, everyone. I'll call the September 4th, 2024 Parent and Community Advisory Council meeting to order. Vice Chair Millhouse, can you please take the roll?
Yes, I can. Miss Teresa Smith,
Here.
Dolores Millhouse, present. Dr. Sheila Jackson,
Present.
Robin Welsh,
Present.
Rebecca Brown.
Present.
We have vacancy for business community and faith-based community. And our civic community is showing vacant, but we do have an active member, Miss Carletta Lundy, until the board reviews the submission. So Miss Lundy.
Present.
Miss Shira Durden,
Present.
Miss Latanza Wilson,
Present.
Miss Carol Walker,
Present.
Miss Sade Davis, okay, we have a quorum.
Excellent. I'm so glad that we have a quorum so that we can conduct business today. All right, guys. So welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. I have had that song in my head all week. I'm not going to sing it because I was not blessed with that gift. but, but I hope that each of you are excited to begin our efforts with PCAC. My email mentioned that it's your hard work, your dedication that will help us move this important work forward. So it's through our collective voice and insights that will help us to properly advise and provide guidance this school year. So let's roll up our sleeves and get down to it. All right. Agenda item 1.3, adoption of the September 4th, 2024 meeting agenda. I hope that everyone had an opportunity to review it. I would like to know, or actually, I would like to add an agenda item, 2.2, elections for a recording secretary. We currently do not have that spot filled. So may I please have a motion to add this item to the agenda?
So moved.
No second.
All right, it has been properly moved and seconded that we add elections to the agenda as item 2.2. Is there any discussion? Yes,
I just wanted to share that because it wasn't on the agenda and this is an item we'd be voting on, I'm concerned that this could end up being an open meetings violation because we haven't provided notice to the public. We're supposed to have so many days, and Mr. Fitzpatrick might want to join in this conversation also, but generally speaking, something like this where you're actually going to vote on it should probably give adequate notice to the public.
Mr. Fitzpatrick left the meeting. I'm texting him now to ask him to come back.
Ms. Barton, have we heard back yet?
No, I text and I'm calling now, actually.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Welsh, are you able to pull up the Open Meeting Act to confirm?
Well, actually, I know that.
I already know. I mean,
I'm sorry. I
you
cannot,
already
I
know.
can't.
I forgot who I was talking to. I'm sorry.
But it's not my meeting. I just thought I should share that because I wouldn't want it to be our first action and you know, not that anyone would say anything, but it's still, it puts us at risk of, you know, someone filing a compliance complaint. So
Right, but if we notice that there was, because you're saying because it's something that we're voting on.
right, and that you're making a decision on it, so therefore it hasn't been advertised to the public. And we're supposed to give it at least, I know the board, I think at least has at least 4 days out. I know policy and governance, I post post the agenda. Now, if we're taking things away from the agenda, we do take things away from the agenda. You know, we've done, but that's different because that's not like we're taking an action on it. We're just removing it and not discussing it.
Well, I would, you know, Chair Smith, since Ms. Welsh is, you know, legal counsel as well. She's not legally counseling us, but she is policy and she is barred and all that great stuff. So I think that we're in a position to move forward with her suggestion to make sure that we're not in violation of the Open Meeting Act, since this is what she does day in and day out. You know, I don't know if we need to remove or go against or object to the motion to make any changes to the agenda and move forward with the agenda as is.
Was the motion seconded?
It was. Yes, it was. The motion was seconded. And so at this time, I motion that we remove the proposal or opinion to move forward with addendum, agenda changes at this time. And I will continue to perform the duties of recording secretary this evening.
I'm sorry.
I mean, it didn't matter anyway, because I still have to do it, so it's okay. So, and I mean, for time's sake.
I appreciate that, Vice Chair Millhouse, and thank you, Ms. Welsh, for keeping us in order. All right, so the next agenda item 1.4, approval of the June 3rd, 2024 meeting minutes.
Well,
So,
I'm sorry, Chair. We still have to approve the meeting agenda. We didn't approve it. We just motioned not to change it. So I apologize. So if we can go back to item 1.3, so you can motion for adoption of the agenda as is.
all right, so let's go back to item 1.3, adoption of the September 4th, 2024 meeting agenda. May I have a motion?
I move that we adopt what was the date? I'm sorry.
September 4th.
I move that we adopt the September 4th, 2024 meeting agenda.
I second.
It has been properly moved and seconded that we adopt the September 4th, 2024 meeting agenda. Thank you all for everything on 1.3. All right, so item 1.4, the approval of the June 3rd, 2024 meeting minutes. The June 3rd meeting minutes were posted to board docs. Are there any corrections to the minutes as posted?
Yes,
But do we have to vote?
yeah, we do have to vote in this discussion, because yes.
We will take the vote before we discuss what the corrections are.
So you have to motion for the meeting minutes to be adopted.
I would like to move that the June 3rd meeting minutes be adopted.
Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded that the June 3rd, 2024 meeting minutes be adopted. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I would like to bring to the attention of the committee that the date it states on there is August, I believe the 7th for our next meeting minute, and our next meeting, which is incorrect. It should state September 4th, 2024. So I strike that we make the, change that, remove August date, change it to the September 4th, 2024 date, and add that as an update to the meeting minutes before we adopt.
Are there any other corrections?
I have a question. Was the meeting on Monday, June 3rd or Wednesday, June 5th?
Oh,
Wednesday.
Because I wasn't there. That was my birthday. So I'm just like, wait a minute, they moved the meeting to June 3rd? I missed it.
Why do I have June 3rd listed? That might be a typo for me.
It was June 5th.
June 5th,
It
okay,
was June 5th. Okay.
thank you. So it is documented as June 5th. That was a typo in me verbalizing it. So the only correction currently is the date of the future meeting, moving from August, or striking out August 7th and replacing it with September 4th. Are there any other corrections?
My name is Estelle, but that's just a typo.
All right. If there are no further corrections, the minutes stand approved with the corrections. All right, so the next order of business is the report of the PCAC chair.
We didn't vote to approve the agenda for tonight. It was moved and seconded, but not voted upon.
So we need to go back to item 1.3. We cannot move from item 1.3 tonight, guys.
No, we shall. We shall.
All right, guys, let's take a vote on the adoption of the September 4th, 2024 meeting agenda.
So
I move that we, I'm sorry, I move that we adopt the September 4th, 2024 meeting agenda.
A second.
all in favor.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Item 1.4, approval of the June 5th meeting minutes.
So move.
So we have a motion from Ms. Brown. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. It has been moved and properly seconded for the approval of the June 5th meeting minutes with the correction for September 4th being our next meeting date in lieu of August 7th.
And the correct spelling of Miss Brown's name.
All right. Correction for Miss Brown's name. All right. Item 1.5, the report of the PCAC chair. All right, guys, I have a quick slide to help guide me through this. Hopefully you all can see my slide. All right, so the first item that I have is that we received an invite from the Board of Education to participate in a demonstration on July 25th for Stop Finder. That was not shared with PCAC, so in full transparency, I want you all to know that it was an oversight on my part. There was some difficulties with me getting access to the PCAC mailbox, but I have informed the board that when future opportunities arise, that they please share that with PCAC so that we can be a participant. The next item is that we participated in a media segment with Fox 5 News on August 5th, and that was to promote open vacancies for the council. It is to my knowledge that everything went well. We did get more applicants in for PCAC, applications in for PCAC, and those applications are currently being reviewed, and we'll discuss that later in the agenda in more detail. Upcoming September 21st from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m., there is a parent community summit that is being held with District 7, 8, and 9. We currently have an invite from the Board of Education to attend. If anyone, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone from these districts, would like to participate and represent PCAC, please let me know so that I can share this information with Chair Walker. It's a wonderful opportunity. I participated in something similar in our last term for District 9. It gives you an opportunity to connect with families as well as other partners in the community when we have events like this. So please let me know if you're interested. We are currently working on getting a retreat with the Board of Education as well as the superintendent. More information to be forthcoming, but the main intent is so that we can understand what the priorities will be for the 2024-25 school year. Then the last thing I wanted to bring to everybody's attention is who our support person is. That is Maria Barton. You guys may see emails that come from the Board of Education, but just know she's our support person. All communications regarding PCAC will come through her. Our meetings are held on the first Wednesdays at 7 p.m. currently. All meeting materials are posted on Board Docs. If you need some assistance with how to get to Board Docs, please contact Ms. Muriel, or you can also ping me. And then I wanted everyone to know that there are general inquiries that come over to PCAC, but we are an organization, a council of parent volunteers and community members. So we do try our best to be timely in our communications, but then there are some items that we just can't handle. So we will route those to the appropriate PGCPS staff. And then if we can't handle it, we'll try to provide a response. So since July, we have had inquiries about Parent View, the PCAC applications, some solicitations, as well as an inquiry about individuals wanting to volunteer specifically with PCAC. And then the last thing, in our last term, we had discussion about an inquiry form. We're going to try to get that more solidified and implement that sooner than later. All right, that concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Ms. Smith, I just want to, Chair Smith, I want to just add that we also have 2 new liaisons for PCAC with the Board of Education.
Thank you for adding that, Chair Millhouse. So you all may see that Ms. Madeline Frazier is here. She is one of our new liaisons. And we also have Vice Chair Dr. Harris. He unfortunately had to leave early because he is like triple booked this evening. But these are our 2 liaisons from the Board of Education that will be working with PCAC. Thank you, Chair Millhouse, or Vice Chair Millhouse. Any other questions or additions? All right, we will now have the report from the superintendent designees. I will recognize Ms. Jackson.
Thank you, and I will do my best to share my screen. I'm like our chair tonight. It was too much to try to remember, and I just had to put it in writing. So I want to thank everyone for this opportunity to just share some information. We are so excited. Welcome everyone to the new school year. And we have been busy all summer. I'll just share some things. These are actually from the entire comms team. My department is now within the Division of Communications. And so as you can see for September, all of these things are happening. And you will get a copy of this in the meeting documents, but we have Blueprint 2 groundbreakings coming. September is Hispanic Heritage Month. There are several events planned across our schools. So it's a very exciting time. And we have back to school reminders that are constantly being shared about the free and reduced price meals, applications, immunizations, enrollment by certain deadlines, and parent view implementation, as well as the transportation stop finder. All of those trainings have been updated and are ongoing constantly. So please let me know and I can convey it up the chain if anyone needs that training or needs support. We have trained our parent engagement assistants in those schools that have parent engagement assistants. Our community school coordinators also have the managerial skills to be able to help parents with Parent View. And so then, like I said, calendar recognitions for a very busy month of September. As you can see, we are really working to make sure that everyone is aware of this through the website, through the various newsletters. Max Pugh has been very helpful in actually placing some of these reminders on every school's webpage, so that parents have ready access to it. What's coming? We will have an employee town hall in October. We have a green media event, just celebrating all of our schools that are being recognized for their attention to climate and keeping our planet green. We have a center ribbon cutting at TIAC on October 8th. Dr. Harris is not here with us, but he's leading a Men Make a Difference conference on October 12th at Wise High School. We have our Hall of Fame Gala on October 25th. I'm hoping that our PCAC members can attend that incredible recognition of alumni who have contributed and come back and contributed to Prince George's County. And it's always a delightful time. And then my department is so excited. We are bringing back our big Family Institute conference. It will be on November 9th, which is in National Family Engagement Month, as an opportunity to let our families know just how important they are, how much we appreciate them, and how much we as educators in the school system are learning to do a better job of building those partnerships and sustaining them. So that's coming. And of course, you all will be invited. This is a save the date, and PCAC members and Board of Education members will be receiving a special invitation. We are just so excited. We are having free transportation at 3 different hubs in the county for parents who don't want to drive to Oxon Hill, can get on the bus. They have to be there 7 a.m. because a bus needs to be at Oxon Hill by 8 a.m. So we will be making sure, and we will be signing up parents for that. So when we get to our limit, for bus seats, we'll let parents know. We have free childcare. Of course, interpretation and translation services will be available. And we have, ladies and gentlemen, some nationally renowned speakers coming. I think you all will enjoy it so much. It'll be a great opportunity for us to come together. Another quick just update, our parent engagement assistants actually returned early. We responded to the concern that was raised by parents that they needed more help and support with Parent View. So we actually brought them back to do some summer work the week of August 5th and the week of August 12th. And they assisted in their schools with parents who needed support. And they also helped schools that weren't theirs because we just really needed their help. So their first day back wasn't until August 19th, but they worked 2 weeks ahead of time. And we're up to 90 parent engagement assistants this year. Our schools see the value of having that dedicated staff member. And so we have 10 schools that figured out how to shift SBB funds and make sure that they could hire one of those positions in their schools. And they are working ferociously to prepare for this month of back to school nights, like you see with Board Member Harris. And then we have their Family Institute schedule planned for the fall. And you will get an actual flyer that has the registration link on it in the portal after this meeting. But this is just a schedule of what will be happening September to December. We also, I just want to share with you, during the summer, our team decided that we needed to give some additional support to our principals. So we ran what we call brown bag sessions where principals could come and have lunch with us. And we took them through a couple of training modules about developing skills to better engage families. So What's in a Town was the first one. We did the principal and PEA as partners. And we did one band, one sound, and we also continue to run customer service workshops for our school staff. So I'm trying to talk fast, Robin. We also want everybody to know that we did hold 3 big transportation sessions. Our department coordinated at High Point, at Francis. Middle House, Fairmont Heights, I do apologize, and Oxon Hill High School. And then we've had several back to school initiatives that are run out of the comms team. So I was looking for an email from the new supervisor of business and community partnerships to talk about our Drive and Dash data. This year we gave out over 16,000 backpacks, and over 10,000 cars came through. We had several walkers come through. And we were just excited. We had such a great turnout in spite of the on and off rain. It was a really great day, and every family that participated seemed to be very happy that they were able to receive backpacks and school supplies this year. Our superintendent was out there helping us. Actually, he and his wife were out there passing out backpacks. Our chief of staff, WHUR, the employee, the credit union, Care First. We had so many community partners out there helping us. WHUR actually came through with about 200 stuffed backpacks that they donated as well. So I think that's the end of, I'm sorry. This just came across from Megan in communications that on September 5th, there will be a capital improvement program or CIP public hearing. That information is on the website, but you will also have access to this PowerPoint to be able to click in if you're interested to learn about what is the proposed capital improvement program from 2026 to 2031. It's going to be very insightful. We continue to try to replace some of these very aging and unhealthy buildings that we have in place. And so that was all that I have. And Chair Smith, I apologize. I took a long time, but I was excited to just share some updates.
Thank you, Dr. Jackson. We always are ready to hear your report because it's always really, really good information.
Thank you.
Ms. Welch, do you have a report out?
I do, but unfortunately I don't have anything in a PowerPoint, but I do have some information I did want to share. So our office right now is working on putting together a draft legislative platform, which basically identifies what are the priorities for Prince George's County Public Schools, because the General Assembly will be coming up very soon in January. And it's important to really have an understanding of what is important to the Board of Education and to the school system. So to start the process, myself and another staff member, Shelby McRae, we met with each of the chiefs in the school system to hear from their perspective, because they sort of give us the nuts and bolts of operations within the system of really what they think are important things that we should be focused on as we go through the legislative process. And I'm sharing this because after I'm done, I'm sharing it so it gives you an opportunity to think about these things, but also to say that we are interested in anything that PCAC might have to say. And can you just excuse me 1 minute? I have my one dog outside of my room and this other dog is starting to bark, so I'm going to let her out the door. So give me 1 sec.
While we're waiting on Ms. Welch to come back, did anyone have any questions for Dr. Jackson?
I just had a quick question, Dr. Jackson.
Yes.
Are you all going to be providing daycare or?
Yes, and I'm sorry, I had that bullet on there, but I don't think I said anything about it for the conference
For
on
the
November 9th.
conference. For the
Yes.
conference, as well as the Men Make a Difference, the district-wide Men Make a Difference event.
So
'Cause I
that is
think that it was-
not, that's
I-
not my event, but I can definitely check with Board Member Harris
Yeah,
about
but it's
that.
a district-wide event. It's not just District 7 event. And so I know, just wanting to know if, because not to think that dads may not need daycare too, or men may not need daycare too.
Thank you for that. I will definitely bring that up to Chief Morales and Board Member Harris.
Thank you.
All right, Ms. Welch, back to you.
Okay, so I'm sorry for the interruption. Anyway, so one of the things that was a recurring theme is that we cannot have the legislature have any more unfunded mandates. Last year, there were lots of different bills that came through, but no money that followed those mandates. And so they expected the school system to do a wide variety of things with the existing dollars we already have and with the existing staff that we already have. And what that does is put a tremendous strain on the system. And many times the things that they're interested in, these bills that come through that they're interested in pursuing, take us away from our major function, which is the instruction of our students. And so, all the chiefs felt strongly that we need to have our focus on the instruction for our students, and that this is, having to put money into other areas takes away from our students, which is not a very positive thing. The other thing that came up in the conversations with the chiefs was the fact that, so the legislation, the session runs from January to April, and then it goes to the governor for any bills that made it through the whole session. It goes to the governor and he signs at end of April, beginning of May. Most of these bills say you have to implement them starting July 1. Well, that really is crazy because of the fact that many of them are complex and have lots of components to them. And in a school system, there's no way that you can be making all these changes and be ready to operate starting July 1. So the recommendation was that when the bills come through, they need to be, they need to give us time, like give us, say, the following July 1, so that we have a year's time to prepare. And many of these bills actually talk about Maryland State Department of Education first is supposed to be providing guidelines, and they don't provide the guide, and they don't have the time to provide the guidelines. So it's even like we can't implement them because we don't even have the guidelines. So that's a functionality kind of thing, but it's an important aspect of each of the bills. And then another thing that came out of which is in line with the conversation, but is that limiting the requirements that are attached to funding. So when they do, even with the blueprint funding, many times they add on additional requirements that weren't there originally when it first was passed and moving forward. But the money is still often the same, and so we're back to the same thing, that we're spreading ourselves very thin. Another area was and I don't know if you're familiar, but there was a bill that was passed last year, the very last minute, in fact, on the very last day of the session, and it was House Bill 838. And this bill actually says that the school system is responsible for giving away grants to non-public organizations to assist private providers of daycares. And no money was attached to this. So what that bill is saying is that we're going to take the money that has been allocated to instruct our students, and we'll have to develop an office that can do grants, because we accept grants, but we don't give away grants, and that's a whole different process. So having staff to be able to do that and then give that money away to non-publics, that's a major concern for us, because that's really taking us away from what the purpose of the school system is. And we want to use our money to instruct our students and take care of our students. So that was another area that is a concern. The other thing is that the college and career readiness, Maryland State Department of Education and the AIB, the two of them are supposed to be working together. So they come up with these standards, and they say they're going to be giving us the final standards by such and such a time that we're supposed to have them. So we're supposed to be ready to implement them. And 9 times out of 10, those standards never meet the deadline or the timeline to provide those. So again, it puts the school system in a bad situation and not being able to implement those standards. Another area has to do with in terms of instruction. In terms of instruction, is the state talks about that there will be a kindergarten readiness assessment that will be used with all kindergartners, and it still hasn't come out. So and it's supposed to be used this year. So we haven't seen it yet. And now they have said it might be coming out by October 10th. But again, it's one of those things we really need to have the information in front of us way before we're required to implement them. Let's see what else. And I'm just giving you just the highlights. Again, repeatedly there has so there is also a bill that came out last year, 1441, and what it does say is that the idea is in an effort to provide as many pre-K programs that money would be provided to private providers from the state. Now that's not our money, but to the state, from the state to private providers to provide pre-K programs. And those pre-K providers, they would have to meet certain standards, for, just like our teachers do, certification requirements, things like that. Although the standard for those certification requirements are much less than what's required of our teachers when they're teaching pre-K. So in a sense, it's sort of watering down what's being offered. But on top of that, we're supposed to our staff are supposed to monitor and make sure that the private providers are doing what they're supposed to do. And so actually, we're having a very hard time finding any private providers, because the last thing a private provider wants to do is have the public school system tell them what they have to do. So it's not, even though the idea is to collaborate and work together to provide more, pre-kindergartens, I think from both ends, that's not considering what the concerns that the private providers have, as well as the public school system. So that was a concern. Let's see what else. So one of the things is that we really think, so there's a very big focus on restorative approaches. And when you're looking at discipline for students, and also, when you think about consequences for students for things that they do that are, violating the code of conduct for the students, a lot of times it's not the discipline that's going to make the difference for the student, but it's implementing practices that really help change behavior. And one of those practices is the restorative approaches. And there's lots of conversation about providing it, but it's an expensive program, because you have to have your staff, at least a handful of staff, very well trained to be able to implement it, and time set aside in the day to be able to implement. And ultimately, schools really need to do it well, especially like when you're thinking middle and high school, that each school should have their own restorative approaches coordinator. They could really, I think if we really had a major focus on this, I think it could make a major difference for our students overall in terms of how they work with each other and with staff, and just how they're doing, functioning in the school environment. So that's something that we definitely support. And then a big area that's still a major concern, we talked about this in our platform last year, but again, it's coming up, is the whole issue of vaccinations. So we have many students in this county that right now are not in school, and it's because they haven't had their immunizations completed. And between, you know, the health department, them trying to get parents trying to get their students to their children to the health department to get all the immunizations, and just the being able to get them to have the access to it, and you know, working around, of course, their work schedules and stuff to get it done. And we've asked last year about possibly getting funding to set up our own immunization clinics and things like that, because, you know, if you don't get the children in school, you can't educate them. And so it's really important that they are coming to school right from the very beginning. And so that is a critical one that we'll be advocating for, to somehow get some kind of support for getting access to be able to immunize our students, because that's very important for them. And then the other thing, so a big topic is artificial intelligence, AI, and our school board did develop an AI policy this past year, but within the policy, it actually says that it will be reviewed every single year, because it's still such a very new topic, and where more and more things are coming out about it, and we want to ensure that we're using it maximum leave to be productive and to help with instruction. However, there are many downfalls to it, and so being able to use it in a way that is helpful and not hurtful is really important. So one of the things is, number one, is that many of our apps that we purchase, different programs, intervention programs and stuff, actually have AI already in it, and we don't even know it sometimes, because they don't say it, and there's no language there to get them to be upfront about it. And so one of our things is that it would be really helpful if the state, if one of the bills that would come out would be when the state would come out with standardized AI agreements, so that it would really help protect the school system, because there's many criminal behaviors have happened with AI. You have the whole issue of plagiarizing. There's just many different aspects of it that we want to be very careful about. So it's having the state assist with that. And it's so new, you know, we're walking into uncharted territory for the school system. So that's one piece. And then the other area is that about 2 or 3 years ago, there was a bill that passed that talked about accessibility for students, and again, digital accessibility. And so it would be really helpful for if the state were responsible for, if they would help, they contract with a company that would help to evaluate all school systems tools for accessibility, because there's many aspects of digital accessibility that's very important, especially for our students who receive special services or have special needs. So that was another area. Another area that's a concern has to do with the cost in terms of increased funding, especially when you're looking at climate action reform. So the school system and the county is very supportive of climate action and wanting to really, ensure that we're being very efficient use of our energy and different things. However, it has really increased we need to have increased funding in all the areas, because it's really increased the cost. For example, electric buses, one bus costs $450,000 when normally we spend $150,000 for a diesel bus. So and also the putting in adequate infrastructures in order to have the buses. So receiving funding or grants or something to help support that initiative would be extremely helpful. The other thing is that there's a lot of increased upfront costs when you're putting in many of the climate change action things that happen when you're building. But the problem is you don't realize any of those savings until years down the road. So if we could get additional funding to support in that area would be extremely helpful. Also, cleaning supplies. So to have climate friendly cleaning supplies, they're a lot more expensive than your unfriendly cleaning supplies. So again, getting increased funding to support the the cleaning supplies would be extremely helpful. The other thing is so we do have metal detectors in the high schools, but we don't have anything in the middle schools at this point. And we're always concerned about students bringing guns to school. Unfortunately, I don't know if you all heard about what happened in Georgia. It's very scary and very real also. And so receiving more funding receiving funding, I should say, that could help support that initiative to extend it down to the middle school would be helpful for the school system. What the other thing is the aging school programs. That funding really needs to be increased because we have so many old buildings in the school system that every year we're putting a lot of money into a lot of these old buildings, but we need the funding to be able to do that. And I know at one point they were talking about doing away with the aging funding sources, but we have to have that program because that's important for at least for our school system to help. And I would assume most school systems in the state of Maryland because schools have been here forever. So there's a lot of older schools. So that's very important. And then the state right now is studying universal meals, providing meals universally for breakfast and for lunch at no cost for the students. And so we do support that if in fact the state funds it, because we do believe that students need to have, come to school and they don't need to be hungry when they're in school. That's going to take away from their learning. They need to have a full stomach. And then I think I'm almost near the end. I think that's it. So that's sort of broad. I mean, I tried to hit all the big areas now. So we're in this beginning stage. This will go in more detail to the Policy and Governance Committee on the 17th. The board members have been asked to think about what they think are priorities because this is really their platform. And certainly at that meeting, they will be able to then do whatever, add things, take things away, whatever it is that they think are important. And then it will eventually go to the full board for voting purpose. But it's important to get any feedback that you all might have because, your perspective is slightly different from ours in some of these issues. And that can be really helpful as we're putting together, what we oppose and what we support.
Thank you for that report, Ms. Welsh. Very, very good information that was shared this evening. So thank you. I see that there are a couple of questions. I acknowledge Ms. Walker.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. I have a couple of questions or feedback as far as Mrs. Welsh's
Report.
So one question I do have is the board or central office reaching out to surrounding states and counties that have things like, for instance, there are typically like state boards of education are the ones that issue grants and oversee grants and stuff, right? And then like school districts just monitor how they're issued to different schools. But for instance, in DC, because it's kind of like a hybrid thing for the office of state superintendent, they are, it's a little different where they're not just, they are quote the state, but also over like individual schools, right? And so they do have like a grants office, and then they do things like the vaccination clinic. So my question is, has there been outreach to other surrounding jurisdictions to see how they have programmatically implemented things such as establishing a grant office or having like vaccination clinics and getting the support from the state health department for paying for, those things. One of the things I do want to recognize is that for all school districts across the country, this is like essentially the first year without COVID funds. So this
Right.
year looks very different than years in the past. And I don't think the general public really understands the impacts that our local school districts, including our Prince George's County
Mhm.
School District, is really feeling because of the withdrawal of those, it was billions of dollars given out across the country, and losing those millions of dollars within the school system and those dollars not being replaced places a huge burden to continue programs that are highly effective and that were working, such as early childhood, such as creating partnerships with community colleges to have early childhood programs, and um, things such as the restorative justice, and all of those things were a lot of things that were covered under COVID funds that are no longer there. And I just want to put that on record, that a lot of people in the public don't understand what the this immediate school year and the next 5 to 10 school years, next 5 to 10 years are going to look like for our public schools, because of the lack of funding from these the billions of dollars that the federal government was giving out to local school districts and to states in support. And then my other point, I had a question point about the Maryland Blueprint and the CTE requirements.
Mhm.
Is the state providing funding for this? Because I have been active with Ms. Millhouse at some other CTE things, and my son has greatly benefited. He's in college now, but his career has launched because of CTE programs within the county. And since that is a mandate coming down from the state, and I did hear you mention there's some mandates that are coming down, but where's the funding for them? What does that look like for us as far as advocating with our local officials, our local, state, and federal officials, as when they require these type of programs that are excellent programs and they don't allocate the funding? So what can we do as PCAC, as community involvement, as finding partnerships with, for instance, Virginia, Amazon had to give a lot of money to build in Arlington.
Mhm.
Because they bring in a lot of people and making a huge impact, right?
Mhm.
So what can we do to advocate to bring these business dollars, these business partnerships, more state funding, more federal funding, to cover all the things that you mentioned, from standing up a grant office, vaccination clinics, restorative justice, to have a restorative justice person in every school from early childhood, all of those things. What can we do? How can we support and get the funding that's needed?
Well, I think one thing that will help is once we have the platform finalized and the specifics of it, then it is the school systems and the boards, their platform and information on that. It will be public. It'll be posted on the website and everything. And so having that information and being able to, and I do periodically throughout our meetings as the session is on, I will talk about different bills and stuff that are coming through that are important bills that need support, so that parents knows that if they, want to, I mean, you can always testify, you can always provide written testimony. And actually, I can certainly bring that information to one of our meetings before the session starts, where you would send testimony, or where you would learn about which bills are coming up, things like that. So I will definitely make sure to keep this group informed about every aspect of it and give you all the information you need so that you can be out there and advocating for those things.
Thank you. Vice Chair Millhouse, I'm sorry, I think I went on mute.
Thank you, Chair Smith. So a couple of questions, and Ms. Walker, thank you, because that eliminated a few for me. Do we not have lobbyists? Does the school system not have lobbyists?
We do have a lobbyist. We have
And so how are they really working to kind of get ahead of some of this legislation that's going out there and keeping, because I don't want anyone who's watching to be confused. We're an advisory group, right? And almost to an extent, almost like a glorified parent-teacher organization, right? And so our reach is very limited. And so to utilize us in the advisory capacity, it is important because we can provide some insight in things, but we also need a better understanding of what's happening. And I think legislative the legislative event last year it was amazing, right? It was very good. It was informative, but then what, right? Right? What was the true call to action, and what did we do afterwards, right? And so we can send letters, we can go and we can talk, but the few people here, in order to really bring about change, it has to be a consistent, organized effort, right? And so I really would like to know, what are the lobbyists doing from that perspective? And then what do we do as the board members? How are they connecting with their districts to really make sure that the districts are informed, right? Because Robin, you always give a wealth of information, Dr. Jackson, but we are posting it, we're putting it up, but then there is really no true call to action on how we kind of utilize this information. Because to be honest, as a parent, I am inundated with transportation, right? I mean, inundated, as well as we're talking about having more metal detectors. My child is now in high school, and it's a lot, right? And so once the child gets into the school, I wonder how many, elected officials are actually going into these schoolhouses to see what's happening, to see what the teachers have to put up with, to see, right, how they may not be the safest, right? Let's just be realistic about what's happening. So putting another metal detector is not always the answer, and it doesn't bring, what I experience. What it gives some other adult an opportunity to say, hey, you need to do da 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 da. Hey, sir, I'm not a child, and you shouldn't be speaking to the kids like that, right? So we're talking about a lot of things that's coming up that we're doing, but what are we doing with it, right? We're having these events, we're telling people about the stuff, but what is the school system doing to really bring forward a call of action, helping to build capacity to say, hey, parents, District 7, let's get together, and we're going to make sure that they hear our voices on the state level, on the district level, right? We have to do a better job in communicating what's happening, letting people know what the need is, and then making sure we build capacity. Miss Lundy had a training that she was going to do last year, right? As it relates to the public testimony, right? It unfortunately didn't get to happen, but I just want us to do a better job. And there's a lot of stuff coming at PGCPS. How do we protect home base, right? How do we protect home base? But first, I got to make sure that I feel protected, right? I need everybody to do their part. So I, as a parent, my child feels protected. So when I go out and I'm talking to the elected officials, so it really is, this is a lot of information. It's a lot of things that's happening. But what do we really want the community to know, what we need them to do, right? How do we organize collectively to stay on target and on task to getting things done? In the piece about AI, I'll say this: ChatGPT may have just come out a couple of years ago, but AI has been in place
Well, it has,
for
right, exactly.
years, right? So I know we're catching up on a lot of things, but so it really is no longer a question, just a statement. It's a lot. Like the new kindergarten readiness, that's on the state level, right? We need to make sure our voices are heard on the state level. House Bill 838, that happened with our elected officials. Like, how are you doing that? Do you not understand the impact? If you're telling the school district to take money from the pocket of money that we have that's already dwindling because the COVID money is gone, and then you want us to pay a private institution to make sure that, it's not making sense, right? And so we got to make sure that we are doing our work to educate people on what happens when they are touching our money, but letting the community know, the stakeholders, the parents, the students, how do we use our voice collectively, right? And then maybe divide and conquer, but we know the mission, but then we come back, right? So
So can I just say a couple things? So the one thing that you said, which is really important, is about your role as from an advisory standpoint. So me sharing all this with you today is just because you might have thoughts on these different things that we That, and I mean, and we'll be working on this. It'll go to on the 17th to the Policy and Governance Committee, and then after that it goes to the board. So even within this time frame, if people have thoughts on, oh, well, maybe have you considered this, or is this is important, or whatever, that's you're advising that you know the Policy and Governance Committee, which I would then bring that information up to them, saying this is some things that you all shared that are important that we should consider. So that's one piece of it. The second piece is that Shelby has put together this phenomenal, and I can make sure that you would have access to this, but this phenomenal thing where she has set up all the schools in each of their districts under each board member, but then it lists out for each of the schools who their delegates and senators are. So that's really an important, helpful thing.
Yes.
Because you as constituents to delegates and the senators, when these things are happening, you know, I think it's important that you're able to have conversations. And if once you have the platform in front of you also, you know what the issues are, so that when you're at functions and you say, oh yeah, that's my delegate right here, that you can have these kinds of conversations, because I think that has major impact for those people. And I do know that I'm talking to Chair Walker. She is very concerned. She wants to make sure we all talk with one voice, and that we are saying pretty much the board themselves is saying similar things, you know, in line with the platform. So that platform should be finalized by the end of this month, so that it's out there 3 months in advance before the session even opens up. Because once you have that in your hands and you also know who your delegates are, sometimes it's important to have these conversations in advance of the session, because it helps formulate their thoughts as they're working to develop different legislation, versus once the legislation's out there, then you're either fighting against it, you know, or fighting for it. But if you can get them to be putting things together. So I think it has to be sort of a collaborative effort on all of our parts, and really keeping, like, we're us on our end, and I'll be your liaison. I'll make sure that you're informed about everything that's happening with the Policy and Governance Committee and the board, so that you feel well informed about what are the important things, that you have that for when you have opportunities to talk.
Thank you for that. And I see Miss Lundy was clapping on that, so I'm done. But that would be just like your policy tracker. That has come in handy. That it's, you know, it's amazing, right? That would be something very helpful that we can also share with the parent groups at those schools,
Yes.
right? And so we're then empowering them to also elevate their voice. And I think this is a good segue to our civic engagement representative. So I'm done.
Thanks, Ms. Millhouse. Ms. Lundy?
Thank you, Chair. I am just so excited. Oh, that was so good. So good. So let me just roll back. So with respect to that list, I just want to make a caveat. What I have found in my experience is, please include pictures. If you can, not only put the delegate's name or the elected official's name and their email, phone number, put their picture, because I attend all of these events that I go to, and even when the representatives are coming in, a lot of people don't even know who they are by their face. So I would suggest that great list that they have put together to include a photo. Also, what I want to say, thank you, Ms. Welch, always a wealth of knowledge. My brain is spinning. I definitely will be submitting. I wanted to say to you, some insights and some consider this type things. Ms. Walker, thank you so much. That was right on spot. And also, I love Ms. Millhouse for saying the divide and conquer thing, because that's exactly what we need to do. Our area of expertise where we can lend our influences and everything like that. So this was very good presentation. I'm very excited about the restorative approaches. As you know, or you probably don't know, I did testify on that before the board of the Board of Education. I did testify on that. So I'm very excited about that. I have some insights and some ideas about that. Have some ideas how we can get some resources with the vaccinations as well. I think we'll submit my ideas and to you, Ms. Welch, via email.
Great.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. So I just have one follow-up item, and quite frankly, I'm not sure if this is directed to you, Ms. Welch or Ms. Jackson. I wanted to know, currently, are there any resources available for families to access any restorative approaches through their districts. I think I'm grateful to hear that it would be best to have coordinators in place, but this may be an expensive ticket. But I'm just curious, what may currently be in place for parents to, or for families to access?
One of the things that we do through Family Institute is we offer workshops so parents know what it is. And then they meet the leader of restorative practices in our system, Robin McNair, who also help, I can't talk, holds community sessions to engage families. She actually has a list of schools that have had extensive training and that have a coordinator in them. But she would definitely be excited about the idea of expanding those resources. I think it's a budgetary issue. However, there are grants available. I know she's writing grants to try to get additional funds to support schools because it's such an important initiative to have in place. I'll just share with you all with the Parent Code of Conduct. Any parent that's in violation of that code gets sent to me, and I have sessions with them about restorative practices for them, what they need to learn about how to navigate in the school system, and giving them a chance to have an understanding themselves because they're modeling for their children. So our parents need that training as well as, our students get it in schools. But it's Robin McNair, and that might be someone you might want to come to a future PCAC meeting.
How
Right.
long is the training?
It depends. It really depends on what you need. She will tailor it to your time.
Well, for the
Uh,
restorative practice component,
The
restorative practice component.
So there are a lot of different sessions. There are introduction, and then she has steps that she goes through. Like you get the introduction, and then this is the next level of training that you need. So it's a series.
So I can only take it if I was sent to you because I broke a boundary in the parent handbook.
At this point, that's the only structured place that it's happening like that on a regular basis. I think we should ask Mrs. McNair about, what are the other opportunities.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Wilson?
Yes, good evening, everyone. So I'm going to kind of speak a little bit more narrowly to an area that I more so specialize in as it pertains to grants and things of that nature. Some of the things that essentially that I wanted to note is that, I'm not sure which department. I am newer to the PCAC, but essentially trying to look at a unfunded mandate and trying to stand up a grants, basically a grants department. Unfortunately, sometimes what may have to happen is that someone that writes grants may end up having to essentially try to apply for grants where they can put positions that are funded through that particular program in there so that you can start kind of getting the pieces together and basically kind of show the state that, hey, we have some people, these funds, we don't know when they will run out. And if you're able to successfully acquire a couple of grants to really be able to fund their positions, then essentially hope that, in an eventual budget cycle that they will start taking over and providing funding for that department. And I could be already speaking to something that everyone well knows, but just in case anybody is not aware. So, what I always advise is for people to look on grants.gov and kind of look for things that involve, and I got to be careful with my words so I don't get myself in trouble with my job, but when you're looking at grants.gov, it's a forward-facing public website where you can kind of determine, largely you're going to probably be looking at Department of Education grants. I am aware of when it comes to safety, there are specific Department of Justice grants that are out there that deal with this specific thing, because I used to manage it. And so you have to just basically kind of go out there, put a list together, and sometimes you just have to do the research also to determine if they are awarded directly to, let's say, a county school system, or if they are awarded to the state, because the program that I'm thinking about would help deal with the metal detector issue in the middle schools. It's just a question of how much funding would be able to be acquired, but you would have to apply through the state. And so once you find out kind of like the budget cycle for these awards and things of that nature, and you kind of have somebody put a proposal together and apply through the state, they can potentially get on that state's radar and be able to say, hey, this is our issue. This is the research or the numbers that we have when it comes to violence in the school system here. And they may be able to kind of push you further up in acquiring that funding. And so unfortunately, it may be kind of like one of those, you kind of have to work backwards, or at least one person is going to have to do a little bit more work to try to get the ball rolling on that. But that would be what, I would best advise at this time.
So can I just say we do have a grants office that actually pursues grants, just like you're talking.
Okay.
And so I do know that because I have written a few grants over the years, they work with them and they'll bring to to different departments' attention. Oh, and a lot of them are federal grants, like through U.S. Department of Ed, that you can take advantage of this. The other thing is that the state has the Maryland Center for School Safety. And they actually have sent out a lot of grants. They have more coming out this year, and we have used them. In fact, every school I don't know how many years back, that all the locks were in the outside of the doors, so that if you had an active shooter come into a building, you'd have to walk out into the hallway to lock your door, which was not very safe. So I actually had written grants for that, and my understanding in the last grant I didn't write, but for middle and high school I had written the grants for those, and that was the funding that actually took care of all those locks. And I know they were going to pursue for elementary because I think there was another grant that came forward. So we are taking advantage of it, but I'm glad you said that, because I will certainly remind them, to keep and I just had a conversation with our chief of operations today to say, I said to him, I'll actually look for you and the MCSS just to see what other grants are out there for all the safety stuff, because that is just probably our top priority, really.
And I would talk to like the Maryland Department of Higher Education and those various different groups. Obviously I only know of a limited amount. Maryland is not necessarily my state when it comes to things, but I would definitely, kind of start making phone calls, ringing people's phones, sending emails to try to get at least on the, federal level. And then the last thing that I wanted to know is, from what I saw when it came to a lot of the COVID funding that came from the federal government, is that, so you had each administration has different priorities. And if you get within an administration, if they last for like about 8 years, you kind of get used to they're on a certain priorities, and they're kind of trotting along when it comes to those. And if something, when something like COVID happens in the middle of an administration, essentially all of these programs, they're going to take funding away from that to kind of put it to this emergency situation. But a lot of times it is going to be a temporary situation until that emergency situation has been, by the majority's feeling, it has been addressed. And so, unfortunately, I think a lot of the COVID funding was essentially temporary funding. But, obviously, you have people that are able to kind of say, hey, this funding really did make a difference. Maybe you all should look at this as a permanent standalone type of program at the end of the day. So just wanted to note that. because unfortunately that's the reality of the situation, is that sometimes these things are more so, what do they call them? They're more so like planting a seed and hoping that the counties, the states will essentially work with other partners within their resource toolkit to be able to kind of pick up and allow for more permanent funding to kind of bud from that seed.
Mhm. And I will tell you, you're absolutely correct about the COVID funding, because I think it all sunsets by the end of this month. And we use lots of that money for interventions for students, all different types of interventions, because, you know, instruction, you know, it suffered during the COVID years because of, you know, having to go virtual and everything. And so that's a concern, because the instructional loss hasn't all gone away. So you still need to be able to provide those kinds of interventions for the students, but now the funding has disappeared. So I mean, and I know they've maneuvered money around in the budget for this upcoming year, because you can't just take away the interventions, you know, but you're absolutely correct, everything you said about that.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Ms. Lundy, will take you as the last person on this item.
Thank you, Chair Smith. I just wanted to go back and circle back around to Dr. Jackson, and just wanted to know, are there any training videos out there within your department on the restorative practices, or have you all even thought about doing them? And, you know, just piggybacking on what Ms. Millhouse, Vice Chair Millhouse said about widening the scope, not to just include those parents who are in violation of the Student Code of Conduct.
There are training modules that have been created with Ms. McNair, and I can reach out to her and see if we can make those links available to you. And I'll find out what other trainings that she has, that, you know, because she is our restorative practices guru in the school system, so she would know what
Thank
other.
you so much.
Yep. Mhm.
Awesome. So this was really, really good information, great discussion from the reports from the superintendent designee. So thank you, Dr. Jackson. Thank you, Ms. Welsh. So we're going to move on to item 2.1, and that is dealing with the PCAC applications. So Ms. Frazier, I just want to prep you. We may have some questions for you. Let me pull my back to my little slide deck over here. All right. So I mentioned earlier, we did that media segment. We do want to extend a great big thanks to the superintendent's office, as well as the Office of Communication and Community Engagement. We worked well together to try to get the information out there so that we could get more applications in for our vacancies. So Chair Millhouse, if you are there, I can't see the other screen. Can you just remind us about Board Policy 1500? Because of course, this is our foundation as it relates to PCAC.
Yeah, so it's the policy that was updated, and it's also went through some revisions the past school year that really governs what we do. And the big part of the policy is that it governs the selection process and the eligibility. And for the district seats, the eligibility is that you have to be a parent with a child in the school system. And then we have the community seats. The district seats require the selection once it's reviewed. A recommendation goes from the superintendent through to the board. The board members for those districts then identify, yay or nay to the individuals that were recommended. A full board vote is required on the community seats. So that would be civic engagement, that would be the faith-based, the union, or nonprofit, as well as the business community. And so those seats require the full board to vote. And so I think that gives enough high level, overview of what the policy does to govern what the board and the superintendent need to do to ensure that we have PCAC members in the seat in a timely fashion to conduct whatever business there is to conduct after we are meeting and engaging with the executive team for superintendent as well as the board to talk about the priorities and how we begin to work with their teams throughout the school year.
Thank you for that. And although we have some vacancies for our district representatives as well as for our business and civic engagement and the religious piece, the faith-based organization, we also just wanted to remind people that we have in our bylaws that if a member's term has expired, the current person can continue in that seat for an additional 3 months. So we have Ms. Lundy here tonight. We have Ms. Walker here tonight. So we wanted to bring that to the attention of everyone while we're still working through this vacancy process. So, I should have brought this up. So currently, I already talked about, well, I kind of just talked about all of this. So for the district seats, it is District 3, 4, 5, and 8 that has a vacancy, then the business, the faith-based, and the civic organization. So Ms. Frazier, I wanted to know, do you have any feedback that you can provide tonight about the application status? I guess more so at a high level. PCAC has received a number of inquiries and they coming from different ways. They're coming in through the mailbox. People are coming at us on social media, or people, because they know that we're part of PCAC, they may even be approaching us individually. So if there's any information you could share tonight, that'd be great.
Yes, thank you for that. So at this point, we are about to finalize all the appointments. Right now, the board members have the recommendations from our superintendent, and we will be finalized by Friday.
Awesome. All right. And I think the other piece that I wanted folks to understand is that PCAC is not involved in that selection process at all. We are recipients of the information once it has been finalized by the Board of Education as well as the superintendent. Also, yeah, so we have our review process underway. One thing that I wanted to I guess put out there for you, Ms. Frazier, as well as for Dr. Harris, is I don't know if you guys have already considered this, but it appears that we need some type of follow-up process so that people who have applied, they know where they at. They know whether or not they were selected, because again, PCAC is being approached and we don't know anything. So if there could be some type of follow-up process put in place when you all have this application, when the application process opens up again, so that folks know what it looks like and who they can contact.
Absolutely. There's transparency is a priority for us. So I know for a fact that we've been talking about making sure that we really carve out the timeline and then showcase what we're doing every step of the way, so we don't have incidents like this year. So yes, we are definitely going to change some things.
Great. Thank you. All right. Is there any feedback or any questions from the council?
Ms. Wilson has her hand up, Chair Smith.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Wilson, you're
And then
recognized.
Ms. Walker, I'm sorry, I didn't know whose hand up was first, but Ms. Walker and Ms. Smith have their hands up.
Ms. Wilson, you recognize?
Yes. The quick question that I had is there anything in the policy, or has there been any type of situations where we address if a situation if a PCAC member, they basically are selected for a particular slot, whether it be civic and more so, I guess, if they're from a district, and then they no longer become eligible for that while they are sitting in their seat due to, let's say, if your child were to go from middle school to high school, and your child now is in a different location. So like, for instance, this isn't necessarily my situation, but my child, if he was in 8th grade and he's in District 2, and then all of a sudden we end up going to, across the way, and it's in a district that is actually vacant at the time. Is there anything that kind of addresses a situation like that? Obviously, I would know that if there was already a representative in that district, you wouldn't be able to make that move. Or if, let's say, you now would be eligible for something like civic engagement, would you have to reapply? Kind of, have we ever crossed that bridge yet?
So
Ms.
the policy, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Miss Millhouse, I'll let you chime in. I just wanted to make sure that I understand the question that's on the table. This is the question related to whether or not you're moving versus where the child resides in school?
Well, if your eligibility is based off of one or the other, and now that no longer, the change has caused you to no longer fit the standards to be in that district. So whether, you're there because you live within that district, but doesn't really matter where your child go, and you moved out of the district, or if you got it because your child was in the district and now they are no longer in that district, that's kind of where it's kind of two-sided.
Okay, Chair Millhouse, would you like to chime in here?
Yes, so when you are appointed based on where you live, right? So my children do not attend school in District 7, but I live in District 7, right? And so my son, who actually was attending school in District 6, now attends school in District 4, but my residency is District 7. So I work with my District 7 representative because I know the community that I live in. I don't necessarily know the community my children attend school in.
So I would be more like a flip, because mine is based off of my child is in District 2, and some of the, surrounding schools and things of that nature. And I can't remember what district that we actually physically live in. So, but kind of, if there was a situation where, again, you go, you move, or something of that nature.
So
is there anything that addresses that?
So you were placed based on where you lived. So if you're in District 2, right? You're a District 2 representative, right? So you should be living in District 2 if your board member selected you and it moved forward. So when you filled out the application, and I feel like breaking out in song right now. I don't think I should continue on with my comment. I definitely think I'm very happy that the liaison is here. I've been at this for 2 years. I just need people to, so board member, LaSalle Frazier, you understand now why it's so important that we have a board liaison. And so, and Miss Wilson, we need to find out where you live.
So I want to say it's
well, I don't think we
look back, but
on a recording. I don't want you to put your
oh yeah, no.
Right.
Yeah,
Don't
so
worry
we
about
can,
that. I
yeah, we
definitely
can
won't put that out
we
there.
can
But
talk about it offline, but
Yeah.
as Ms. Millhouse was stating, that's why I had to ask a clarifying question. To my understanding, the way that Board Policy 1500 is structured is based off your residency.
Right.
So
And the application, it requests your address.
I can't remember if it requested the address. I know that it requested the location that my child was attending. And when I looked at the board meeting for where I was appointed, they specifically addressed that my child was at a District 2 school and that I was not in that area, and they still selected based off of that. So I'll go and look back. And I didn't know that this was actually like, gonna be situation asking this question because I was, obviously wondering something slightly different. But, obviously that's something that needs to be addressed. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. Ms. Walker?
I have a less complex question. My only question or request from the board is for the board to communicate to applicants if they have not been selected so that they know they've not been selected to move on. I know the applications have been open since April, and there has not been any communication that has gone out. And from a time perspective, it's a very rewarding thing to serve on PCAC, but it also involves time and allotting time to be able to meet with the community, to be able to, properly serve in the position. And just out of respect for people, out of their time and their professional and personal lives, to provide that type of communication so they can kind of know how they can move their schedule around for future events.
Thank you, Ms. Walker. I think it's well received, especially from me and Ms. Millhouse seeing a lot of these inquiries. So thank you so much for stating that. Any additional comments? All right, we're going to move on to agenda item number 3, follow-ups and next steps. You guys will be receiving an email from me. We were contacted by the Climate and Culture Survey lead, and she would like to schedule a 30-minute session with us, either September 10th or September 11th. So I'm going to put those dates and times out for you all, and just let me know what works, and we'll try to go with the majority and then make sure that the meeting is recorded in case someone cannot attend. Ms. Frazier, I don't know if you have information on this tonight, but I noticed on the Board of Education agenda, the disability advisory issues, the disability advisory and issues board item was removed, but we have also been contacted about the application process for that group as well, even though that has nothing to do with PCAC. So I was just curious, just out of courtesy for parents, do you have any insight about how that process is currently working?
So that committee has its own liaison, so I'm not free to speak on that. I do know as a board member that we are close to having all the members identified. I know that much. I just can't speak for that board member who is the liaison. I apologize.
No, fair enough. Thank you. And we usually do a round robin for all of the districts. I realize the school system just started. Some of you all may have not even connected with your board member yet, but some of you all may have constant connections with your board member. So is there anything that any of the district representatives would like to speak on tonight as it relates to their particular districts?
I just want to say, I'm hoping that in the next couple of weeks, well, we are District 7, we have been meeting. We are having a meeting with our parent leaders coming up in the next couple of weeks. And I'm hoping that after that, we can kind of share the model with the other board members, because it really, it created an opportunity for, and it's not like the regular chat and choose. Dr. Harris doesn't do the chat and choose. What he's done is he's reached out, and thank you to Dr. Jackson and her team, to all of the parent leaders that are, currently sitting in the executive level at their PTOs and PTAs, and have brought them together and reached out to the principals at the schools. So we have several meetings on monthly where we are talking to community groups, we're talking to our parent leader groups, and I have to tell him sometimes, like, I want to sleep in the evening, right? but it's been really helpful so for him to hear what's happening, because his vote needs to reflect, right, the voice of the people that he was elected to serve. And it's been very helpful for him to hear things that he cannot always hear about, even when he's getting the concerns that come via email. It gives him an opportunity to listen to not only some of the problems, but listen to the solutions. And so we've created like our own advisory group in District 7, which has really been helpful. And then we're working to kind of build it out more this school year. We just started last year. And so I'm excited about that, because it also alleviates that when they may ask for PCAC to be presented somewhere, I may not be able to show up. That doesn't mean that District 7 still should not have representation. And so working with the board member, you're able to then identify individuals, whether it's a principal, whether it's a frontline staff person, teacher, whoever it is, that may be able to provide some insight. We can bring them in as a District 7 rep. And so I'm hoping to share that and maybe see it across the board, what all districts are doing, because it builds collaboration with the PCAC as well as with community. And that's what we should be doing, equitable engagement practices.
Absolutely. I'm excited to see the model, because if, District 6 can benchmark from that, we will be, right there. And then I know we have some fairly new district representatives, so it will give them a jump start. Ms. Frazier?
I just want to say how excited I am about what Ms. Milhouse just shared, because one of the reasons why I wanted to become liaison for PCAP is exactly that. I think that is a wonderful opportunity for us to engage our PTOs, PTAs, our parent engagement components, and really create community within the districts. So kudos to you guys for having started it, because I think it's a model to follow. And I think if we do it really well, it's something to be replicated across the country. So thank you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Anything else from any other district representative? Ms. Lundy, do you have anything additional? No? Okay, Ms. Brown?
I did meet with the PGCA CEA rep. She wanted we'll figure out what we've been doing so far. And she wants me to give out emails. I haven't done it yet, but is everybody okay for me to reach out and give her our emails? It's the PGCEA. I have not, because I didn't want to. I don't think it's great. But she says she has talked to a couple of y'all. We did have a nice meeting over the summer. I told her that, I'm the rep for y'all, so we wanted to make sure we were a partnership. But she did want to contact y'all, and I just haven't replied to that email because it's not my emails to give.
Yeah. If I don't want my personal email to be distributed out. I don't.
Yeah, so Ms. Brown, if you could possibly just share with me any, I guess, information that they would like to be distributed to PCAC, and we can kind of work through it from that regard.
Email you her email so you can then get in touch with her as well, instead of vice versa.
Right, because we have a PCAC email. Why can't we just use the PCAC email? Like, if she
Understood. That's what I gave her. So
okay, great.
Yeah. And then you are a representative. You're our person. So
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Dr. Jackson, was you trying to raise your hand for something?
I think
right.
she had to leave.
Okay.
She left.
Okay, no problem. All right, so we are at the end, guys, the closing remarks and adjournment. So if there is no additional information, may I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I motion that we adjourn the meeting at 9:03 p.m.
I second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Awesome. Thank you guys so much for hanging in there tonight. We'll see you guys next month. Have a good evening.
See you. All right.
Bye-bye.